Yes, there you have it. Byleth from Fire Emblem Three Houses is joining the battle.
Too many swordsmen, are there?
I had thought that one or two might suffice, but, well, have a look.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Lucky Crit. Today, alongside the rather spicy Smash Bros. Direct featuring our boy and girl Byleth making it into the game.
Join Smash Brothers already! What in the world are you waiting for?
We got a brand new trailer release for the long-awaited Abyss mode of Fire Emblem Three Houses.
Abyss?
This is a DLC expansion that is a part of the fourth wave of its DLC, so let's take a look at this trailer and break it down as best we can. Side note, I love Hilda gossiping in the beginning, by the way. I think that's awesome.
Back then, there were tons of rumors about what goes on below Garreg Mach.
So we do know that the save data of the Abyss mode side story will be separate from your main game saves. You'll also have to select the gender and name of Byleth when starting this mode, as well as the difficulty and mode options, just like starting a brand new game. However, it seems that the rewards from this mode, of course, will carry over into your main game saves, namely the brand new characters, and this way the mode can stand alone and not ruin the difficulty or pacing and balancing of the main game, aside from, bringing over these new units. And so they can also probably experiment with maps and units in this mode a lot more, and be more playful than just dragging along your main save file students to each battle. So I think that's going to be really cool, and we also know a little bit more. I'll get into that in a moment. Up to this point though, with the data mined info, it kind of seemed like some of these characters were more meant for one of the houses over the others, based upon the supports that they get in their character info. So also, side note, these characters will have supports with other characters from the game, so they won't be like Anna, which Anna was pretty unfortunate. I know a lot of people were upset about that, myself included to a degree. It seems a little unfortunate with Anna. She doesn't get any supports with anybody, so while that doesn't necessarily make or break that character, it does make her seem less worthwhile to use, because you're not really building up anything by bringing her along in whatever playthrough you're doing. She's just kind of a blank slate character off to the side, which is kind of unfortunate. So thankfully we do know that these guys will be getting supports. I'll probably get into that a little bit more in a separate video talking about each of these four brand new characters. However, based upon these supports that they get and their character info, it's unclear if you'll be able to just recruit all four of these guys into any single playthrough. Especially because with some of these supports, it did seem like they were kind of meant for one house more than the others. But with how open Three Houses is with recruitable units from other houses, I'd imagine that you will actually be able to. But I did just want to put it out there that we don't have confirmation just yet of having the ability to just throw them into each and every save file and story path in the main game. So just keep that in mind, but it probably will be likely that you'll be able to just bring all four into wherever you want. This information is thanks to the FE Translate Korean Twitter account, so thanks, shout out to them, links in the description down below, of course. And these translations also reveal that Abyss mode will have a different cycle from the main game, unlike the monthly assignments that you'll take with students from other houses. So that makes sense. And you will also battle with selected members in the battlefield, probably pre-selected arrangements of students and characters. So like I was saying, they could pick some really wacky setups where you have certain characters set up certain ways, or they only bring along certain people for each chapter. So a lot of variety and openness with what they can do with this, because it will be a side mode and not just, a paralog chapter or a part of the main game. And these maps will also have special gimmicks that can make the difficulty higher than that of the main story. So like I was saying, this was probably a cool mechanic or gimmick playground for them, since the sky was the limit with what characters they could include and what they could do with this mode. Seems like there won't be a maddening mode, since the difficulty options here are just normal and hard, but it does state that it should be more of a challenge than the main story, so perhaps it's challenging enough. In this shot here we can see Byleth with Hilda, Claude, and Edelgard, which is a cool mix of characters from different houses, and we also later see that Dimitri is here with Ash too. And there's also Linhardt and others in a battle shot later, so I think it's safe to say that in the story for this mode, you'll find the Ashen Wolves with the other three houses and all of their students. I guess everyone went on an underground field trip? Now we can see far off here in this shot what looked to me to be shops and a blacksmith to the right. So I'm thinking, of course, that this underground facility will in fact be fully explorable, just like the above ground section of the Garreg Mach Monastery in the main story. But of course, in this mode, you'll most likely be locked down here. But it does seem like you will have the exploration in between chapters here as well. There's also some cats down here, so maybe the cat feeding and other features like the sauna will also be present down here. Maybe it'll just be like a second Garreg Mach Monastery kind of home base area just for this side mode, which is kind of interesting. A subterranean version of Garreg Mach, if you will. Then in this shot here, we've got Balthus, who is one of the new Ashen Wolves characters, and he is using some brand new relic gauntlets, the Vajra Mushti. And you can actually see here he's fighting against Dimitri, which is pretty interesting. I also want to point out that Balthus is the War Monk class, which is a returning class from Fire Emblem Awakening. Next, we see Edelgard fighting the new student Happy. Anyway, Happy, if you look closely here, is actually in a brand new class, or should I say returning class, because they've now brought back the classic Valkyrie class, which is a mounted magic class, kind of similar to, I guess you could say, Holy Knight or Dark Knight, but this is probably the more anima-focused one. It'll be interesting to see what they give this class in terms of skills and spells, and what the class-specific abilities are. But we do see her using dark magic here, so it's likely that she's finally another character who isn't Hubert that can actually use dark magic spells. Then we've got Yuri fighting Hilda here, so I think that they're just having representations of each house battling for this trailer, but I'm wondering what this means in terms of the Abyss mode story. And it's also kind of weird to think that in this Abyss mode you can actually end up fighting these new students instead of, or alongside, using them, which is kind of strange. Next we get a close-up shot of Constance, another Ashen Wolves character. She's pretty interesting, as we'll see in a moment. And the other interesting thing here is that unless they will be adding more students to the game via the DLC download, so far, it appears that these 4 new characters are going to be the only 4 new characters to come along with this mode. And why do I think that? Well, that's because they've been in the game's code since launch, and were actually data mined last year. So we've known that these guys would likely be future DLC or expansion pass characters, and perhaps a part of this Abyss mode, but because it was only them in the data this entire time, I'd say it's probably rather unlikely that there will be additional new characters alongside these guys here. And as I said a moment ago, now we can see Constance here is a Dark Flyer class, so those of you familiar with Fire Emblem Awakening and Fire Emblem Fates might remember this class as the Flying Mounted Magic class, typically a female-only class, and would actually inherit Gale Force, which is a pretty broken ability. So with these new characters, they're also bringing back some old classes that have not been in the game up to this point, which actually may carve out an interesting niche for these characters in your standard playthroughs from this point on, which I think is pretty cool. I like the potential of that there. So they'll definitely stand out no matter where you use them or how you use them later. And this shot is also really interesting. We've got Yuri, who is the new protagonist or house leader of the Ashen Wolves, doing some sort of warp swap with what looks to be Ash. But we can also see that the other playable units here include Edelgard, Hilda, Linhardt. You can see Byleth in the back right. Of course, that's probably not a shocker to you. But Yuri has also been revealed to be the Trickster class, another returning class. So it's possible that this spell will be one of the spells usable by that class. Yuri is going to be interesting in general because if you couldn't tell already, he's a little bit feminine looking for a guy. And it's actually been revealed through the data mine of his info that he will in fact be a bi character and a bi romance option. So he's going to be capable of S-ranking both male or female Byleth. And that gives some more options here for those of you that are interested in that, which is nice.
How is this?
And of course, all of this starting February 13th. So the question remains if this will indeed be the final update for Fire Emblem Three Houses, or if we could see future game updates. This was the final mention of the Wave 4 DLC that the expansion pass was to include, so I suppose if they wanted to do more in the future, they would have to make another expansion pass for people to purchase, kind of like what we're seeing with the second Smash Bros. Fighter Pass for the second wave of DLC fighters for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate that will be coming out. So it does remain unclear at this point, but as far as we know, this will likely be the final expansion to Fire Emblem Three Houses. And that is going to wrap up this video, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I know it's been a little while and my content has kind of been in a bit of a drought. Stuff like this does get me super hyped and excited to get back in. I've been really busy with my new job, but I'm going to try to be more consistent with things, of course. I just knew that I had to get this out and talk about this. I was super excited seeing this today. I actually, took an early break at work to watch through all of this and get hyped about it. So be sure to let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. I'd love to know what you guys are thinking about this, if you're super excited for the Abyss mode, and be sure to let me know what your plans are in the comment section down below. And of course, if you enjoyed this video, do me a solid and slash that thumbs up. That'll really help out the channel. Make sure to get subscribed if you haven't yet to stay tuned for future content like guides and stuff like this. Also be sure to follow us on Twitter for any news and updates. And if you want to be extra awesome, you can support us on Patreon. But as always, I'll see you guys in the next episode.